Good evening. Good evening. Welcome. I'm so happy to see such a large crowd here tonight. We're way past sold out for tonight's talk, and I'm really, really excited to have so many of you here to listen to Enrique speak tonight. I really encourage all of you to, if you haven't seen the entire exhibition, to come back when the gallery is back in its normal state and see the show. It's some really phenomenal work that Enrique has presented here. I'm Robert Wuilfe. I'm the curator at the Rosa, and the organizer of this solo exhibition of the work of Enrique Chagoya, the exhibition Surviving Paradise, Sobreviviendo, Paraíso. This is the first exhibition I've curated for the Rosa, and I'm extremely honored that Enrique entrusted me with his work for this show. So, just a little background. Enrique Chagoya was born in Mexico City. He emigrated to the United States in the late 1970s and graduated with a BFA from the San Francisco Art Institute, and then went on to receive an MA and an MFA from the University of California at Berkeley. Since 1995, Chagoya has been teaching printmaking at Stanford University. He's a prolific artist whose works hang in some of the most esteemed galleries in the nation, including SF MoMA, the De Young Museum, the LA County Museum of Art, the Whitney Museum of American Art, the Museum of Modern Art, and the Metropolitan Museum of Art. The list goes on, and of course includes our own De Rosa here, which has several of Enrique's works in the collection. Enrique Chagoya is a master of appropriation, creating a complicated and satirical juxtaposition of narratives that destabilizes the viewer's point of view. Without preaching or overtly pushing any agenda other than sanity, Chagoya encourages us to surrender the luxury of a single perspective. His ongoing project of reverse anthropology, in which he places the symbols of a dominant American culture into a visual context heavily influenced by pre-Columbian visual language, asks us to re-examine the costs and legacies of an often absurd and inhumane world. As David Buck recently wrote in an excellent review of this exhibition on squarecylinder.com, Chagoya explores a terrain where, as he has said, all cultures meet and mix in the richest way, creating the most fertile ground for the arts. For Chagoya, art trumps didactic moralism. He resists the shop-worn models of celebratory, postmodernist cultural hybridity and knee-jerk anti-Western cynicism. Thus, his art continues to remain politically and aesthetically potent for those willing to go beneath its multi-layered surfaces. I think David's comments highlight how important Enrique's artwork is at this tumultuous time in history. Before handing the mic over to Enrique, I'd like to make sure to acknowledge all those who made this exhibition and its associated events possible, including the donors to the Fresh Art Fund, members of the De Rosa Collectors Council, and Onward Young Collectors. We wish to thank all the lenders to the exhibition, including Enrique Chagoya, Gallery Paula Anglum, Electric Works, Magnolia Editions, and private collectors. I'd like to extend a special thanks to all the staff, volunteers, and interns who worked tirelessly to make all this happen. And I'd also like to thank Napa Television for the equipment we're using tonight to record the talk. Considering how quickly this event sold out, we're really happy to say that tonight's talk will be recorded and uploaded very soon to YouTube, so everybody has a chance to see it. And on that note, Enrique Chagoya.
Thank you all for being here tonight, and I want to thank Robert for creating this exhibition. I'm very grateful also to the De Rosa Preserve that for many years have collected my work, and I have a dear affection for the De Rosa, and for me, René De Rosa is always here, and it's a pleasure for me and an honor to be here tonight. I'm going to start my talk just to maybe let you know a little bit about where some of my appropriations come from. And I think my quickest answer to this question is that perhaps my earliest influence was my father, who used to work for the central bank in Mexico, sort of like, you know, the mint. It's actually the mint of Mexico. And he used to work for the internal security of the bank. You know, that bank is the only place in the country that cannot afford to be corrupt because they are the ones that print the money, and they have their own internal security. So my dad had a lot of stories about people they caught, like a French forger who got arrested, who changed his name into an Italian name, San Pietro, who was an amazing artist. He, in Mexico, he moved from France to Mexico. In France, he forged francs and Moroccan money. In Mexico, he did forgeries of dollar bills, of Mexican pesos, of Cuban money, and Venezuelan, I think the Bolivar Venezuelan money. And for many years, this forger was not, I mean, he was difficult to catch until the police got a letter from his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend that he left in France. His ex-girlfriend was really mad at him because he left her. And so she told the police where he lived in Mexico. So he got arrested. And then my dad began to visit him in prison because they have to interrogate him why he did it. And the story of this person was very interesting. He was a very well-trained artist. He went to major academies in France. So they asked him, why did you have to do what you do? You could have made a living as an artist. And also, he came from wealthy families, so he didn't need the money. So he said, well, I did it for the thrills, and so he spent about 10 years in prison. Eventually, he went back to France. But in the time being, my dad was bringing him art supplies to prison, and he did a portrait of my dad, which he still has in his bedroom. It's like a small black and white picture that looks like a photograph. And anyways, these kind of stories left a big impression on me. When I was first time in his office, I was only 10 years old. And I always thought to myself, I would love to do look-alike things since I was a little kid. And eventually I did. When I was at the San Francisco Art Institute, one of the first classes of printmaking I took was history of printmaking. And at the California Palace of the Legion of Honor, we were able to see the actual prints by many, many artists, but among them, one of my favorites from all time, which was Francisco Goya, which is the print we are looking at here right now. I'm not gonna talk too much about these prints because I already spoke many times about it, and probably many of you might have listened to me before, and I don't wanna bore you with that. So I'm gonna go through the images more or less quickly, and I might stop to the last one I did, my most recent work. I'll pay more attention to my most recent work, which is very much what we have here at the Rosa. So anyway, I just want to remind you, I did this series after Goya's Disasters of War. The Disasters of War was a series of prints that Goya did when Napoleon invaded Spain. And it was with the purpose of getting rid of the monarchy in Spain, the Bourbons. The Bourbons were relatives of the monarchy in France. So Napoleon invaded Spain in the early 1800s with the idea of liberating Spain. To his surprise, the Spaniards didn't like to be liberated. And they fought back. It was a horrendous war. And until today, Spain still has the Bourbons as their king and queen. So Napoleon didn't do much of a change. Luckily, we have left a lot of art that came out of that, especially Goya's print. So I combined my idea of making my own versions of work with some kind of editorial cartooning sometimes. So I was still a student when I did my first piece back in 1983. And, so I was very happy that I was able to do something that would look alike. I felt, well, if I don't make as an artist, maybe I will be a good forger somehow. Luckily, that never had to be a decision I have to take. Another image from the Disasters of War. I guess I'm just going to make it larger because it's a smaller screen. It's this one, which I did combine with this picture. It's a 1942, a design of a gas mask for children. You could see it in the background. If you Google Mickey Mouse gas mask, you actually could see the actual design of this. So I decided to mix that with the previous image that we saw from the Disasters of War and make my own version of it. It's hard to read in the bottom, but it says gas mask. And then let me see if I can just put it a little bigger. It's kind of like a yin and yang sort of like a tragedy and very superficial happiness on the other side. So other works by Goya that I really follow are from the Caprichos, where he very much satirizes all kinds of superstitions. One of those superstitions was that the teeth from hanging people were for good luck. And to me, that was not the strange part, but the strange part was like somebody will walk at night and look for people hanging from trees. I think that would be really scary, a very scary thing. I just imagine Spain in early 1800s. Anyway, so I decided to make my versions of that with sort of like a rat fin character, a big tooth, and Snow White. Another of my favorite prints by Goya is The Sleep of Reason Produces Monsters. I always say this in this print. I mean, unfortunately, the monsters in this print are not monsters for today's standards. I mean, these are bats that are good for agriculture. In fact, people are really worried about bats right now. They're having like some kind of fungus infection. It's killing a lot of the bats in the East Coast, and it's moving towards the West Coast now. And bats are really good for agriculture. The owls are endangered species too. And cats, I mean, I have cats. We love our cats in our house. So there's nothing really scary here. So I replaced that for really scary things, which is military aircraft, like stealth bombers, Apache helicopters, F-16s, and so on. I just left some of the owls mostly as pets, as good companions, if anything. In the background, I wonder if you could see the nuclear plants on the lower right, and some drums just leaking radioactive material. That to me is more scary. This is a monotype with same kind of rat fin with a Mexican hat. And on the background, there is Alberto Gonzalez, the former general attorney, with Speedy Gonzalez, kind of like an alter ego. Oh, I think you can see it right there. Right. So I'll keep moving. It's another one from the disasters of war. And again, similar idea, the yin and yang I had before. Lately, I've been exploring the current politics. And this one, I guess you might recognize who's the person in the middle. So this is a picture of very much of maybe great ideals that get threatened by monsters. The title of this is Not Escaparás, or You Will Not Escape. Sort of like a flirtatious character here surrounded by some kind of monsters of corruption, who knows. Let me just keep moving with the next.